So I would like to touch bases and teach on a subject that has become real taboo for the Christian community. And I believe that Christians are teaching according to their personal feelings and belief rather than what's scriptural and what's logic. And the subject is marijuana as well as the cocoa plant and the opium plant and other plants that have been considered um, category of drugs according to the government. So let's get some facts out there. There are multiple scriptures that speak of having a sober mind. And most of those scriptures lean towards drunkenness, okay? But still, a sober mind is a sober mind. There is many things that can make you lose a sober mind. And not just drugs and alcohol. Food can do it. Sugar can do it. So it's not just drugs and alcohol. However, humans have been here for thousands of years. However, the pharmacy was not established until 1752. Now, before the pharmacy, the establishment of a pharmacy came, I am curious to wonder how do Christians believe, or what do Christians believe was the source of medicine prior to the pharmacy. Now, Jehovah says in Genesis 1, chapter 1, verse 29 and 30, that he has given us every plant yielding seed that is of the earth, as well as Genesis chapter 1, verse 11 and 12. It says the same thing. These plants that I speak of are yielding seeds. Jehovah says himself in scripture that he gives us every plant yielding seed upon the earth. And all these plants yield seeds. So they are ours, humans, for usage. Back in biblical times, there was wars. People would get hurt. People were getting sick. And let's start with the cocoa plant. The cocoa plant is what they use to make Vicodins, Norco, Novocaine. All that stuff is made from the cocoa plant. But cocaine is also made from the cocoa plant. Now, the cocoa plant has medicinal value in which it used to be put in a bowl, crushed up with a little bit of water until it made into a paste. And then the injuries that individuals will have, they will pack the wound with that to numb it for pain. Opium. Opium was ingested or smoked in ancient times for arthritis. Marijuana is used for anxiety, depression, X, Y, and Z. All these things have medicinal value. Then the government got a hold of these plants and started using it to sell, making drugs to sell. Now, the root word for pharmacy is pharmacia, the Greek word, which means witchcraft. It means all the things that Jehovah disapprove of. So, Christians argue that weed and all these other drugs, plants, are stops us from having a sober mind, but they fail to look at the issue of even the drugs that come from the pharmaceutical companies, from the pharmacy, take you out of having a sober mind. Even something as like blood pressure medication, it makes you drowsy and sleepy. You do not have a sober mind on that. So the things of that nature, if they're gonna have that argument for plants that Jehovah gave us, then they need to have that argument. Because I'm a Christian too, but that argument needs to be made for drugs that come from a pharmaceutical company from the root word meaning witchcraft. Now, the things that come from the pharmaceutical companies are not here to help us. It's actually adding toxins in our body, because these are the plants that were being used for medicinal value were changed with chemical compound in order for it to be made into pill form. Then we start having liver problems, kidney problems, bladder problems. Some of these drugs cause cancer because of the agents that are within the drugs that they use to bind them together for us to ingest them. Scripture supports the fact that we are able to use the plants that God gave us for medicinal value, but yes, you're not supposed to abuse them. It's a difference from using them for medicine and abusing them to get high. But we abuse other things as well. We abuse food. We abuse sex. We abuse alcohol. We abuse everything. Taken out of moderation is abuse. And we all do that to one thing or another that Jehovah has given us. So it's not 100% correct that Christians teach that it's bad to smoke weed. That's not correct, not according to Scripture. Not at all. And the pharmaceutical company is witchcraft. It is witchcraft. With that being said, I want people to understand, I don't drink. I don't smoke any type of tobacco products. I don't do any type of medicinal plants, nothing. And it makes perfect sense to me why these plants would not be considered bad in Jehovah's eyes, especially when the doctor, medicine and stuff that we have today, modern medicine, didn't exist back then. And olive oil and all this other stuff that we think cured us, it didn't cure somebody who got something amputated, and they didn't just suffer it out. When somebody was injured in a battle or became very, very ill with the diseases of biblical times, they didn't suffer it out because there was no medicine. There were medicine. But because today's pharmaceutical company and the government said that these plants are bad, people are following suit instead of thinking logically, well, what was our medicine before 1752? What was our medicine? And if it was inherently bad, why would Jehovah put it here? Same thing with like poison oak and poison ivy that makes us itch. There is a value with that plant. Just because we haven't figured it out yet doesn't mean that it's something that is not supposed to be here. I seen a video about dandelions. You know, the yellow flowers that grow in the yard that most pest companies deemed as like crab grass, and you should get it out your yard. But dandelions is exceptionally good for your heart. So why would companies like the weed companies, the one that got sued for all the millions of dollars for causing mesothelioma and all these other types of cancer, ortho, they got sued, but they formulated a compound to spray on your yard to kill those grass, those crabgrass, the dandelions, which have high medicinal value. All these plants that society is trying to say is bad is actually plants that do save our lives. So I am encouraging Christians to really think about what they say when it comes to trying to have an argument of a person who smokes weed, and you want to claim that it's unsobering. It may be unsobering to an excess. If you smoke too much of it, yes. But there's a right amount for the situation to heal whatever is going on with a particular person. Same thing with opium. Same thing with the cocoa plant. Asians, to this day, smoke opium for their arthritis. And I remember being a little girl, about 11, 12 years old, and some Asians stayed right across the street from me. And the girl didn't go to my school, but I just knew her from the neighborhood. And one day I seen her grandfather squatting in the backyard smoking a pipe. And I asked, like, what's in that pipe? Opium. Opium, yeah, opium. He smoked opium for his body pain. But yeah, her grandfather, almost 90 years old, little petite Asian man. And I know that that is truly the medicinal value of these plants. And I believe that. And I disagree with every Christian who says that smoking weed or smoking any other plant or ingesting any other plant is against what God says, because that's not true. Not according to what Genesis chapter 1, 11 and 12, chapter 1, 29 and 30 says.